Hey, what's up? Welcome to Degen Ed. That's degenerative education, meaning none of this is financial advice. Just me having fun looking at charts like the chart behind me, which is of Fisker Automotive, ticker symbol FSR. And so I wanted to do an update on this ticker because I have been accumulating shares over the past few months. And I do feel like it's getting pretty risky with the possibility of filing for bankruptcy. So I do think it's quite possible the price could go to zero. But at the same time, I do think that there is some potential for a squeeze or at least reclaiming some of these levels to the upside. So I just kind of wanted to go over my thoughts with that. And regarding a squeeze to the upside, that really comes from looking at Canoo, ticker symbol GOEV, which I have covered on the channel many times. But I kind of got spooked following this reverse split. That was a 1 for 23. I just thought it was odd being 1 for 23 rather than 1 for 20 or 1 for 25 or 1 for 30. And, so I had a small position. I ended up exiting right around here at a small loss. But, what ended up happening was this big move to the upside. I do think, however, that with GOEV, with Canoo, that it could be pulling back some, because if we do take a measurement from the lows here up to the highs, that represents a nearly 300% move. And so I do think it will eventually be cooling off, but I do think it could be making its way up to around $5.10, where this line is, and that would represent a more than 300% swing from the bottom. But I do think it will be bumping into resistance there, as that had previously been a high before this retracement here. So I do think it's getting pretty risky being up so much. And I do also want to note that if I would not have sold my shares, I could have made more than 100% on that trade, but I didn't, just because I felt like there was a little too much risk. And so with Canoo, I do feel like price could be pulling back to right around $3.56.5, just being the low over here, that being the 100% or full retracement from this Fibonacci retracement here. But I do think that price could very well be getting back to 510 before that pullback. But, I just think that if you're up, 100% or more, I do think it is good to consider trimming, taking some profits, at least half of the position if you're up 100%, and then you're just playing with house money if you do want to see if price will go higher. But I do think it could be pulling back, like I said, to 356. Also, that corresponding with the high that was hit on March 20th, being at a price of $3.55. There is a gap there now, so price could very well be returning to that level to fill that before potentially moving higher, but it could also be going lower, especially with earnings coming up on April 1st. Since we've been up, more than 300% leading up to earnings, there could be a pullback around there. But, I just kind of wanted to frame this video around Fisker with the possibility of there being a squeeze like this, because it could very well happen. And that would be perhaps following the news of a deal with Nissan, or some other good news that could be coming out. I do think that this could be going up, but also I do think it could continue to bleed, as it did close on Friday, March 22nd, at a price of 12.48 cents, being down more than 4% on the day, and also closing below this yellow line here at a price of 13.17 cents, that being the 2618 extension from this retracement. And also price has been below the 3618 extension from this retracement up here, the orange line, that is at a price of 15.61 cents. So price really has just been bleeding the past couple weeks, following this gap down from a price of right around 29.30 cents. That was the low that was here before the gap down. I do think price could be heading up to that level, but I do think it will be tough to be getting back up to the gap here that was around a price of 71.5 cents. But just like GOEV squeezed up a bunch, it is quite possible Fisker could. But it could also continue to bleed, continue to head lower, like coming down to the 618 extension from this retracement here, and that is at a price of 6.8 cents. So, I do feel like this is pretty risky. And since, all of the covered calls, the options that I was holding, since all of them have expired, I am now free to, trim my position. And so what I plan on doing, I actually don't know exactly yet because I don't want to be selling at a loss. My average was right around 60 cents, but at the same time, selling at a loss, around 12 to 15 cents, that's better than selling at a price of 0. I was actually looking up some stuff on Reddit just yesterday about the ticker BBIG. That was a pretty volatile stock to be trading in the past. But I just saw a post that was at $0 a share now. And so everybody who had put money into that, they were left holding the bag and left with nothing in the end. So I do think that is quite the possibility that could be happening with Fisker. So, what I'm thinking about doing is likely trimming my position if price does go higher, assuming that there will be some resistance around 15 cents. That's about a 75% loss for me. But I could start to trim there, and that would then lower my risk and leave me some room for if price does go up to fill the gap at 29 cents, or if it does go up to fill the gap here right around 71, 72 cents, then I could take a little bit of profit there, but net would probably be losing money on my trade. But I do think it is better to walk away with a little bit of money than to walk away with no money. So, I'm not going to be selling any more covered calls with this one. I'm not going to be buying any more shares, even though, I do think it could potentially be squeezing up like GOEV did. I do think that the risk does outweigh the reward at this point. And so, yeah, I just wanted to share my thoughts on that because this does seem to be pretty risky and it does continue to bleed. But this might very well be marking the bottom before some volatile moves up, especially if we think about the RSI being well below 30, now at 20.97. So I definitely think there is a possibility for this to be moving up, but I just don't know that it'll be getting back to like 60 cents, my average. And so I do think no matter what, I will be accepting a loss. And so I'm probably going to be trimming if it does move up to 15 cents, 29, 30 cents, and potentially 50 and or 60 or 70 cents. So, that does suck, but that is the reality. Sometimes companies do go bankrupt. Sometimes they do go to zero. And I do think it is good to prepare for that worst case scenario if it does happen. But if it doesn't, also good to not completely sell all shares at a loss, maybe hold on to a couple hundred to see if it does squeeze up. But anyways, those are just my thoughts. If you found them helpful, make sure you like the video, share your thoughts in the comments down below, and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Thanks a lot for watching.